Well, hello. Welcome to the final edition of the final. I'm going to just go through these, and I may or may not go through them in order because apparently that was really hard last time. So here we go. What quadrant? All right. Well, the quadrants go like this, and it's all about how far you traveled around the circle, or are you positive, negative, all that kind of stuff. So this one's kind of confusing. I like to kind of think about going around the unit circle as this side is pi and all the way around is 2 pi. So if you have a denominator like this, I think about this end as whatever the bottom number is, you have to equal that on the top because the 12 over 12 would cancel and become 1 pi. And all the way around is going to be double on the top because 24 over 12 would reduce to the 2 pi. That means all the way around. Because I can't, then I don't have to think about the fraction. I can just be like, oh, 17, where's that? Now, this is negative, so I'm going this direction. I don't know where I'm stopping, though. So one thing that I try to figure out is, what's halfway in between these? So by here, I've gone to 12. If I go all the way around, I'm at 24. So think about, okay, 12 and 24 gives me 36, so halfway between that is 18. So that means halfway between them is 18 twelfths. So 17, obviously, is just a little bit short of that. So now I can have some guidelines, because if it's degrees, I get where it is. I can visualize that, but in radians, I can't. So I'm going to head out, and I'm going to go to 17 pi twelfths in a negative direction. So I'm stopping short of this, 18. So that means I'm over here in quadrant 2, which is why I got quadrant 2 on my answer key. Convert. Ooh, love this. So easy peasy. So I'm keeping in mind that pi and 180 is my conversion factor. So I have 10 degrees. So I'm going to be changing that into radians. So in a good science class with my dimensional analysis, I need the degrees on the bottom. And since my answer is going to be expressed as a fraction of pi, I take this on my calculator. And if I'm using my graphing calculator, I hit math, enter, enter, and it reduces that fraction to be 1/18th. And so I would write this. The only reason I didn't write a 1 is it wouldn't have a 1 on the final. It would just say pi over 18. Converting to degrees, all right, same kind of thing, except this time I have radians. So the radian part goes on the bottom and the 180 goes on the top. And I just literally multiply 7 times 180 and divide by the 12. So I get 105 degrees. Exact value. Anytime you see exact value, it's talking about the unit circle. So figure out where you're going and what you're looking for. Cotangent. Cotangent means one of two things. Either you need to flip the tangent over if you know that, or you're going to have to take the x-coordinate over the y-coordinate. If you're using my unit circle, then it has the tangent values on there. But first we have to figure out where we're going, because this is where am I going, and this is what will I find when I get there. So bust out your unit circle, and again, negative. You're going in the negative direction. So positive 7 pi over 6 is here, all the way past the 180 mark and to the next dot. So negative simply means that you're going to go the same distance but the opposite direction. So I'm going to go to the halfway point and then to the next dot. So you're at that last mark before 180, which on your unit circle is going to say 5 pi over 6 in the positive direction. I went negative 7 pi over 6, which puts me in the same spot. If you have the unit circle that I gave you, you're going to see that the tangent value in that spot, first of all, it's negative because tangent goes positive, negative, positive, negative. So it's negative root 3 over 3. That's the tangent value. So the cotangent value is going to be that flipped over, negative 3 over root 3. Of course. So I need to rationalize that. And those of you who are thinking, I'll just use my calculator on everything, this is not really a thing you can do on your calculator. And the 3's cancel now that they're both on the outside. And so when I'm all done, this is my cotangent value for that spot on the unit circle. Exact value, unit circle, secant. Okay, so secant will flip over your cosine. So let's go to this place, find our cosine, flip it over. So dig out your unit circle, we're going positive, and we're going to 5 pi over fourths, which is right down here. Cosine is your x. So if you look at the x coordinate at that spot, you're going to see negative root 2 over 2. So my secant is going to be the flipped over version of that, which is 2 over root 2, and that's still negative. Just like the previous problem, I need to rationalize my answer for this. So if I pick an unrationalized answer on the test, it's not correct. So I'm going to have negative 2 root 2 over 2. This cancels. And there I go. All right. Now, my calculator. That seems like it's going to be so easy, but it's not. Couple things. Secant's weird, and 5.7 seems weird. There's no degree mark, so that means this is going to be in radian. You have to go to the mode key, and you have to make sure that radian is highlighted instead of degree. And then, after this problem, you best switch it back because you're going to need to be in degree mode for all the word problems and everything else. And then secant is 1 over cosine. It flips that over. Since there's not a secant button on my calculator, what I type in is 1 divided by cosine 5.7 while in radian mode. And if you do that, you're going to come up with an answer that is C, like the best match is C. If an angle is in quadrant 1 and the sine is blah, 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 find the cotangent. Okay, this is the kind where you're going to have to go, oh, I got to draw me a triangle. So I'm in quadrant 1. I draw the triangle that would be in the bow tie. The angle's down here. The right angle's over here. And the sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So in this triangle, here's opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. And they're telling me that this opposite is 8 and the hypotenuse is 17. And in the quadrant 1, my adjacent side is going to turn out to be positive because I went to the right. But I got to find out what it is. In all of these problems, we find out what that is by using Pythagorean Theorem. So I'm going to have a squared plus 8 squared equals 17 squared. So then this is going to be a 64. This is going to be a 289. Subtracting that 64 over, I get this. And then I can square root that, and it actually comes out to be a nice, neat number, thankfully. I get 15. So this is 15. So I have the 3 numbers that I need. I have my opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. And now I look to see, what are you asking? You're asking for cotangent? Okay, well, let me think. I know tangent is opposite over adjacent, so cotangent is going to be adjacent over opposite. All right, go and look. If I look at my triangle, the adjacent is 15, opposite is 8, and you leave it like that. You don't do it as a decimal, you don't do it as a mixed number, you just leave it as this. Okay, so this is the same kind of thinking. Hang on, my kid is calling me. I have to text her and tell her that I'm making a math video. All right. So what's happening? Find the tangent. Okay, so secant is going to be, let's think about it. Secant flips over cosine. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So secant will be hypotenuse over adjacent. So here's the hypotenuse, here's the adjacent. The tangent numbers, values that they gave me, you can see here, are all positive. And then the secant, which goes with cosine, which is x, is also positive. And so I'm going to go into quadrant 1 because that's where that will be. And my opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. So this is the hypotenuse, this is the adjacent, and this is the one I don't know. And I actually need it because they're asking for tangent, which is opposite over adjacent. So let's find it. So to find, I don't want to call it O, or I'll think it's a 0 and be really confused, so I'm going to call it Y. Y squared plus 2 squared has to be the square root of 5 squared. So don't make this harder than it is. Don't confuse yourself. If you square a square root, it's gone. Moving the 4 over by subtraction, and then I'm going to square root 1, which gives me a 1, and in this quadrant, it will be positive. So now to do opposite over adjacent, which is what they're asking for, my tangent value will be opposite over adjacent, so 1/2, and that makes C my answer. Now, that is not something that you can just do in your head. And I think what happens is kids are like, oh, yay, it's multiple choice. I'll just read the problem and know the answer. You're going to have to do work. You're going to have to like show all this stuff. I'm not showing my work just so that you know what I'm doing. I'm showing the work because it's necessary like 90% of the time. Look at me learning from my mistakes. I'm going to go over here now. Oh, well, I guess it's easy to do. There's no bottom. Anyway, what quadrant? Okay, let's do that again. So think about what this means. Sine is y, greater than 0 is positive. Where is y positive? Well, here and here. Those are where you have positive y's. If you're like, I don't get it. Yes, you do. These are the positive y's. Going down is negative y. You've known that since, I don't know, middle school. When's the tangent negative? Okay, well, tangent goes positive, negative, positive, negative. So the tangent's going to be negative in this quadrant and this one. But and means it has to do both. And the only quadrant that is where the overlap is, where the sine is positive and the tangent's also negative, is quadrant 2. Very popular right answer, quadrant 2. Alrighty, 18-foot ladder makes an angle of 58 degrees with the ground. Be logical, you guys. Ladders go slanty. The ground is right here as it leans against a wall. How far up the wall? So that's this. Does the 18-foot ladder reach? Okay, well, I'm looking for a side, so I'm going to be using SOHCAHTOA. And this is straight across from my angle, so that's opposite. This is across from the 90, so hypotenuse. So because I have opposite and hypotenuse involved, I'm going to use sine of my angle equals opposite over hypotenuse. And in this case, I'm going to throw down a 1 so I can do cross multiplying. And 1x is going to be 18 sine 58. And this is where it's really important that you turned your calculator back into degree mode. Anytime you're asking for a sine, cosine, tangent, anything, you've got to be able to make sure you're in the right mode. So what do I get? 18 sine 58. I get 15.26. And then a lot of kids are asking me like, are we going to lose credit if we round to the wrong thing? Well, you can't. It's multiple choice. So find the one that works best, and then that's that. These are a lot of words. To find the height of a pole. Okay, there's my pole. A surveyor moves 60 feet away from the base of the pole. Okay, there's 60 feet away from the base of the pole. And then from an eye level, height of 6 feet. Okay, so this is actually my little surveyor guy. And he is apparently, or she is apparently 6 feet tall. The angle of elevation. So this is the top of the pole. That's not a very straight line. Angle of elevation is this guy, up from the horizon. And apparently that's 26 degrees. Find the height of the pole. All right, well, this is the height of the pole, but I only can solve what's inside my triangle. So I can solve for x, but super smarty pants, if this guy is 6 feet tall, then this is going to be a 6 down here. So my height will just be the combination of whatever I solve for and that 6 feet. So looking at this top triangle, what have I got? I've got x here, I've got 60 here, and I've got an angle of 26 degrees here. Straight across from that angle is opposite. Next to it is adjacent. So if I think about that, that's going to be tangent equals opposite over adjacent. So the tangent of 26 is opposite over adjacent. Solving that by cross multiplying, I end up just finding x equals 60 times the tangent, of 26. And that is giving me 29.26. Be really careful because that would be an option on the test, because the right answer is then adding 6 more for that initial height of that person's eye. So the real answer is 35.26 feet. So just be careful, be smart enough at the end. Don't be in a hurry. There's not a prize for being done first. Energy company strikes oil when they have drilled 2,015 feet along an angle of depression of 40. Okay, so here is what can be tricky about that. So angle of depression is going to, first of all, my triangles are not awesome. Okay, they're still not awesome. And I know I can make Notability make them straight, but I'm too lazy. Angle of depression is down from the horizon, so that's going to be 44 degrees. And it says you're drilling 2,015 feet along that angle. So that's actually my hypotenuse. And it wants to know the depth of the oil. Okay, well, this is the depth. How far down is it? So from my 44, I've got an opposite and my hypotenuse. So the sine in this case of 44 is opposite over hypotenuse. So I end up solving in very much the same way, and I take 2015 times the sine of 44. And when I do that, this is the closest answer. One thing that's not on here that I kind of wish was on here, and I'm just going to draw one on quick. Let's say they had blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter what the words are. And let's say that I knew this was 5 and I knew this was 11 and I was trying to find an angle. Keep in mind that to do that, you have to use inverse. So you would say this is opposite, this is hypotenuse. So I'm going to be using sine, but on my calculator, I'm going to use sine inverse because I know the opposite over hypotenuse and I want to know the angle in degrees. So again, super important to be in degree mode. And that kicks out a 27.03. So I'm just calling that good at 27 degrees. So just in doing this review now, those last 3 were really similar. And I want to make sure that you know, can I use trig to find an angle? And that's going to be using the inverses instead. Okie doke. So what do we have going on here? Tangent's a half. Okay, so tangent is a half, has to be either in quadrant 1 or 3 because that's where tangent's positive. And then it's telling me the y is negative. Well, the y is negative on the bottom part. So that's going to be in 3 or 4. So since it has to be both things, I'm going to be drawing my triangle into quadrant 3. I'm trying to find the cosine, which will be the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Sine is opposite over adjacent. Now be careful, because the opposite is 1, so that would be over here. But since it's going down, you need to know it's negative. Up here, the bottom is a 2, so that's my adjacent. But because you're going left, it's negative. So the reason your tangent's positive in this problem is that they took -1 over -2, and that reduces or cancels or simplifies, whatever you want to call it, to positive half. So you have to be careful. Okay, so in order for me to do cosine, I need the hypotenuse, so I'm going to do what I do, and I'm not going to even care about the negatives, because when you square a negative, it becomes positive. So this turns into 5. So my hypotenuse is √5. Okay. So my cosine is going to be the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. So -2 over √5, but need to rationalize it. So my final answer is -2 √5 over regular 5, and done. Boom. Grand finale of finals. Keeping in mind that you want to take a look at your cheat sheet. One thing that's smart is if you have like a trusted friend that's not just like some kind of educational barnacle that hangs off of you, and they actually can contribute something to you, compare your cheat sheets. Because when you look at your friend's cheat sheet, you might be like, oh, I wish I forgot to put that on there. I wish I had that on there. And then your wishes can come true and you can just put it onto your own. Doing that during the test is called cheating. Doing that ahead of time is called preparing. So I will see you on Thursday or Friday, depending on which hour you're in. And hopefully you will bring your brilliance and can celebrate your knowledge because you want to be prepared.